Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 870, August the 17th, 2019, Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, it looks like the official results of the autopsy on Jeffrey Epstein are in, and the coroner's official autopsy findings are that Jeffrey Epstein's death was caused by suicide by hanging. Suicide by hanging. Killed himself. What were you expecting? What were you expecting? What were you expecting them to come out and say? Yeah, well, we found that Epstein was probably murdered. Yeah, someone probably came there and strangled him. That's what it looks like to us. Most of the time, you have 3 broken bones in your neck, including this one up here in the front, the hyoid bone. Normally, according to statistics, that indicates a strangulation, not a hanging. But, he beat the numbers. He beat the odds. Hey, how about that? Fantastic. I don't know about you, but I totally believe this. Yes, I totally believe this. Brought to you by the good folks down there in the Southern District of New York, where they have high ethical standards. Oh. Yes, those folks down in the Southern District of New York wouldn't want to second guess them. But on the other hand, I was once told by a relatively wise person, my mom, that I should always get a second opinion when it comes to medical doctors. A second opinion. I would like a second opinion somewhere outside the Southern District of New York or the District of Criminals, maybe some small town coroner in Iowa or Indiana or somewhere, anywhere but the horribly corrupt Southern District of New York or the District of Criminals. Total bullshit. Total bullshit. Don't believe it? Yes. This is like the freaking magic bullet theory. That's what this is. This is the magic bullet theory. That's what this is. It's another version of the magic bullet theory, which has been going on and on and on and on and on for over 50 years. And they're still touting the magic bullet theory, even though it's been debunked a gazillion times over, including by the Congress. But this is the final word. And the fact is, they're bullshitting. They're lying to us. We know they're bullshitting and lying to us. They know that we know that they're bullshitting and lying to us, and they just don't care. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Oh, I know. We're waiting for the Inspector General report from that crack Inspector General, Huckleberry Horowitz. I'm sure he's all over it. Oh, but that's not all. We even got the FBI looking into it. I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it. Like I said, maybe they'll bring back Andy McCabe and Uncle Bob the Executioner. He can bring in Weissman and Jenny Ree and Peter's Been Stroking Us and Loose Lisa Page. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I'm waiting for. Yep. Found him with a sheet over his head. Dead. I wonder what kind of a maneuver he pulled off that top bunk. Maybe they can tell us that. Maybe they can tell us that. Maybe it was maybe he did a cannonball off the top bunk. You think that was it? You think it was a cannonball? Maybe he launched himself off the top bunk, grabbed his nuts, and went yeehaw, and did the double cannonball. Hey, maybe it was the triple Lindy. Could have been a belly flopper. Could have been anything. Or nothing. It looks a lot more, to me, like one of two things. Either someone just wrapped their damn hands around his throat while the other guy held him down and just squeezed his neck until he broke 3 bones in his neck and killed him. Or they brought in some highly skilled, Green Beret type who delivered a, chop directly to the throat and killed him pretty quickly. Breathe, Jeffrey, breathe. Come on, Jeffrey, please, breathe. Come on. Come on, Jeffrey, breathe, breathe. Yep, I'm pretty sure I know how that went down. So there we go. There we go. The Magic Bullet Theory Part 2. And it looks like we are going to not get the truth. But I wasn't counting on that, were you? Heavens no. Not under the circumstances. What are they supposed to do? Come out and tell us the truth? Yeah. They're going to come out and say, yeah, well, we've determined that he was murdered, probably murdered in his cell. So someone obviously came in there and murdered him. Had to be someone else in there that murdered him. So I guess we'll wait for the FBI and the Inspector General to figure out what happened here. Find out who murdered Jeffrey. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Nope. So, probably what the headline story, the way it should have read, the way the headline story should have read, was probably something like this. The official coroner results of the autopsy on Jeffrey Epstein reveal that Jeffrey Epstein's death was likely due to suicide by hanging around with the Clintons. Suicide by hanging around with the Clintons. That's the cause of death. I think that's a little more accurate, don't you? Well, I would love to belabor this point, but because we are talking about the swamp and cover-ups and criminal conspiracies, and we don't have a lot of time, I must move on to the next crime, cover-up, and conspiracy by the deep state. Compliments of the Southern District of New York. And our friends at the FBI. Ho, 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 ho. Yes, indeed. Here we go. A new Senate report released by Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley. A new Senate report released by Chuck Grassley shows that the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, who was probing the Hillary Clinton email scandal, believed an individual on the team was leaking information to the media. The ICIG legal counsel and suspected leaker has ties to the Clintons. Frank Rucker, R-U-C-K-E-R, and his fellow Intelligence Community Inspector General investigators discovered the rotten Reverend Clinton's emails were hacked by China, and they confronted the FBI about the anomaly that they found on Hillary's server. Rucker believed that a man named Paul Wogerman, W-O-G-E-R-M-A-N, was leaking to the media. Wogerman, who was then a counsel at ICIG and whose father was allegedly a pastor to the Clintons, was the only male employee on leave the following day when a meeting with, name redacted, was supposed to take place, the report stated. So they believe that a man named Paul Wogerman was leaking to the media. He was the Inspector General, Inspector General, Intelligence Committee Inspector General counsel, in other words, a lawyer, whose father was allegedly a pastor to the Clintons. Those religious Clintons, you know, every Sunday they're in church, right? I mean, the rotten Reverend is probably ready to do a sermon on her own at some point. She said she wants to become an ordained minister. Then they won't need the pastor. But anyway, getting back to this lovely story. So this individual, who's this counsel, this lawyer for the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, is a Paul Wogerman, who apparently has some ties to the Clintons because his father is a good friend of the Clintons. He was their pastor. He was the only male employee that was on leave the following day when they had a meeting with this person whose name is redacted, and that is what this report is telling us. Now, Rucker says in his interview that a small group of people over there at the ICIG that was working on that was a I'm sorry, let me repeat that. Rucker said in his interview that it was a small group of people at the ICIG that were working on the Clinton email issue. In other words, there wasn't a whole lot of people working on it, so it wasn't hard to figure out who the leaker may have been. So the suspected leaker, Mr. Wagerman, now works inside the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. He got promoted. He got promoted. And what do you want to bet? He got a bonus. Yes, what do you want to bet? He also got a bonus. Bruce Orr did. Bruce Orr got demoted, then got a big bonus. A big-ass bonus. And he still works there. Oh, boy. So Mr. Wagerman now works inside the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Rucker also said that he and several of his fellow ICIG investigators who were probing the Hillary Clinton email scandal were followed by a strange Jeep for several weeks. And one of the investigators was followed from the State Department to his home, where someone broke into his house and stole all of his computers. Another investigator realized that someone had rummaged through his recycling bin at his home. And, of course, we saw the interview with Charles McCullough right there on YouTube, where he said that he was told when he first discovered this, he was told, hey, man, you better leave that alone. The rotten Reverend Clinton, she's probably going to win the election, and when she comes in, she finds out that you were doing that. Oh, boy, you're gone. You're done, brother. And he's like, yeah, but, this is some serious stuff, man. China's living on her damn server. We got to do something. We got to do something. And people fought and fought and fought and told him not to do anything about it. And he did. And they ended up having to retire early. At least they didn't snuff him out. He could have ended up like Epstein. Or Vince Foster. Or 148 other people. My. There you go. The problem is that there are so many crimes, so many cover-ups, so many criminal conspiracies, that you just can't keep up with them all. You can't investigate them all. There's no end to it. Like I said, it's a bottomless swamp. Well, the Gateway Pundit is reporting that newly uncovered documents show that the Obama White House ran the Wiener email investigation. They ran the Wiener email investigation. The corrupt FBI and DOJ worked with the White House. You're kidding me. Really? I find that difficult to believe. On August the 5th of 2016, Peter's Been Stroking Us sent Loose Lisa Page a text that said, quote, someone said the White House is running this. Strzok also used the initials LC to describe who told him that. Well, we now know that the LC initials stand for Leslie Caldwell. Caldwell was running the mid-year exam. Of course, the mid-year exam was the investigation into the rotten Reverend Clinton's email server. So Leslie Caldwell was running the mid-year exam for the White House. And of course, we know from other texts from Strzok and Page that the mid-year exam was viewed pretty much by everyone in that department as a joke. They were making jokes about it, particularly Lisa Page, making jokes about them, about the mid-year exam and about them, getting to the bottom of the rotten Reverend Clinton's illegal server. $655,000 rotten Reverend Clinton emails on that Wiener laptop. 655,000 emails on the Wiener laptop. I've been saying for a long time, we need to take a look at that Wiener laptop. Now, if you remember, there was a related story that went along with this that had to do with Eric Prince, saying that he had inside information from some folks inside the investigation in New York, that they had actually seen some of the headers and some of the stuff in these emails when they discovered them. And that there were things in there that were extremely damaging. Even stuff, if I remember correctly, about Epstein and the fact that both Bill and Hillary had been to Epstein Island. And stuff in there about Uranium One. All sorts of pay-for-play stuff. All sorts of Huma Abedin making arrangements for, oh, you want to visit with Hillary? That's great. It'll cost you X amount of million. This type of stuff, all through these emails. And then, of course, what happened next? Loretta Lynch makes a phone call, in which case I think it was Andy McCabe describing the situation as never, ever heard Lynch being this forceful before, when she called down there and said, hey, you guys down there, we're hearing that you're, going to come out and make a statement, or you're going to go public with what you know about what's on that. You better not. At which point, she fired the head investigator that was over this investigation of the guy who had been murdered or killed, accidentally killed, I guess, because he was selling cigarettes on the street, and they put him in a chokehold, and he asphyxiated, blah, 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 blah. The cops were exonerated. So Loretta Lynch was threatening that she would send in someone else to take over the investigation, and that they would redo the investigation, and that they would find these guys, suggesting that they would find these cops guilty and the leadership guilty, and all kinds of things, or nasty things were going to happen if they decided to talk about what they knew on the Wiener laptop. Remember it well. You can probably Google that. Eric Prince, Wiener laptop. Google Eric Prince, Wiener laptop, and you'll probably get the whole story. It's very kind of long and complicated to explain. I don't have time, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. In other words, just as Strzok and Page are talking about here, it was rigged. Once again, the Obama White House was running the mid-year exam. Well, at least we have some good news today. It looks like that we have another win for Judicial Watch. What would we do without Judicial Watch? Judicial Watch is probably more effective than any investigative unit in the District of Criminals, the Southern District of New York, or anywhere else for that matter. I mean, I think we should put Judicial Watch. We should make Tom Fitton and his team. We should make Tom Fitton and his team the Attorney General, or the head of the police in New York, or governor or something. We need to let Judicial Watch start investigating things. Maybe we get some answers, some true answers for a change. Because all we're getting now is bullshit. Bullshit. So a federal judge has now ordered the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Incompetence. A federal judge has ordered the FBI to produce any records of FBI contacts with Christopher Steele after November 2016, November 1st, 2016. Judicial Watch had previously succeeded on getting documents from the FBI, but the FBI only supplied records prior to November 1st of 2016. So the judge has ordered the FBI to produce all records after the 1st of November 2016. I sure hope they weren't on a CD that's cracked and damaged beyond repair. Otherwise they'll be missing. Wouldn't want that to happen, would we? Missing. I'm sorry, Judicial Watch. They're missing. The CD's cracked. Don't know how it happened. CDs crack and break all the time. Yeah, happens all the time. I have lots and lots and lots of CDs. I have them everywhere. I know mine crack and break all the time. Not. How many of you have had CDs crack and break? Show of hands. I bet you I could take my CD out of this case, one of these CDs out of one of the cases, and I could take that and I could whiz it like a frisbee down the street, and then I could go over and jump up and down on it. I could whiz that up in the air, jump up and down on it some more, and then come back in and put it on my CD player, and I bet it would still play. The FBI has a really, really good lab. They can take a disk and they can retrieve information off of it from a hard drive disk that's been burned in a fire, that's been run over by a truck, it's been run through a meat grinder. You got a CD pretty bad to where you can't get any information off of it at all. We'll see how they do, but at least ways you got to credit Judicial Watch for giving it that good old Army try. Paul Sperry. New information shows that Silly Sally Yates, that's Silly Sally Yates, aide. Silly Sally Yates' aide, Matt Axelrod, called the FBI headquarters and demanded that the New York agents back off of the Clinton Foundation probe during the 2016 campaign. Silly Sally Yates also signed off on one of those Carter Page vices, and she was the one who really got Michael Flynn fired on Logan Act violations. Oh, my. So more information we have now that Sally Yates, one of her aides, Matt Axelrod, called the FBI headquarters and demanded that the New York agents back off of the Clinton probe. Now, that's generally called obstruction of justice, interfering with an investigation, abuse of power. I think there's 3 or 4 criminal statutes which might apply to that activity. Yet, I've heard nothing about anyone interested in pursuing the activities of Silly Sally Yates, who, by the way, is working for a lawfare affiliated firm down in Georgia. Or is it South Carolina? Georgia? I can't remember which. But Silly Sally, she's down there working for lawfare. Well, I certainly hope that Attorney General Barr and Mr. Durham are following their P's and Q's and are looking into this, because as I just pointed out, and you don't have to be a lawyer or even a halfway decent lawyer, you don't have to be very smart to figure out that if there is a document showing that Silly Sally Yates contacted investigators and told them to back off of an investigation, that is a crime. I hope they find it. I know they're looking for lots of crimes. You see any crimes here? I don't know. You got that dossier? Where is it? Have you seen Christopher Steele? How about Joseph Mifsud? Is there any crimes? Let me look. Don't see any crimes there. Yep, they're busy. No shit, Sherlock Ray's on the job. I'm sure he's looking at all of it. Yep. Why do you think they waited 3.5 weeks to raid Epstein's island and his other locations? Why do you think they waited so long? Because normally, when you get arrested, on the day that they arrest you, they've also got warrants to search. Because they want to make sure that they get the evidence before you get rid of it. But they waited over 3 weeks. Now, there was a report yesterday that a prosecutor in the Virgin Islands, a prosecutor in the Virgin Islands says that he doesn't, if I remember the story correctly, I have to make sure I word this correctly. This prosecutor in the Virgin Islands believes that it was unusual for the FBI to wait so long to serve a search warrant on the property. And he says that he believes other people probably got there first because of the length of time that lapsed after the arrest. And I can imagine they probably had British intelligence, Israeli Mossad, CIA. They probably had, there's probably been every damn intelligence agency on the planet was on Epstein's island within 24 hours of his arrest. Getting it all. Not to mention, he ordered a emergency order concrete mixer to be delivered to his island just a couple of weeks before this all went down, which tells me he probably heard something was coming. Man, Jeffrey Epstein, death by hanging around with the Clintons. Well, it appears that Chuck Grassley is investigating Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden. Well, there's a lot to investigate there. We know his occupation seems to be flying around with Daddy-O, getting huge contracts and kickbacks from Chinese and Ukrainian companies. Let's see, he likes snorting coke and taking crack and whatever else he can probably fit up his snout. He's really into prostitutes. He's a real winner. A chip off the old block. There's a lot to investigate there. And I do believe that John Kerry's stepson is also a partner. Can you imagine? I mean, God. Only in the District of Criminals. Only in the District of Criminals. I imagine that Chelsea sits on the board. And Nancy Pelosi's daughter is probably the XO or something. Who knows? Yeah, the kids of the corrupt get together and they start young. They start very young. Okay, so they start their life of crime, and they get a front door opportunity and a welcome mat to begin their life of crime, following in their parents' footsteps in the swamp. Like I said, it's bottomless, man. Bottomless. At this point, we just need to bulldoze. We just need to take a bulldozer and bulldoze the District of Columbia. Just bulldoze the whole damn thing. It's a shame, too, because that was George Washington's city. Designed it himself by hand. I don't think this is what he intended. Pretty sure. Need to bulldoze the entire District of Criminals. The whole damn thing. There should never be another investigation run out of D.C. or the Southern District of New York. Because all these investigations, where are they run? Out of D.C., Southern District of New York, or Eastern District of New York. All the stuff that we're talking about. All the corruption. All the crimes. All the stuff that we see. But yet they continue to say, well, a lot of bad stuff happened. We're going to have an investigation. And who's doing the investigation? The very damn people in the very place where all the corruption happened. Well, the government's investigated itself and found that no crimes were committed. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along, move along, move along. And it's not that they think we're stupid. They know we know. They just don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They don't. Because in their mind, what the hell are we going to do about it? It's like one of Nixon's folks told him one time when they were all protesting outside the White House. Nixon's looking out the window saying, man, look at all those people out there. They sure are pissed. One of Nixon's aides says, yeah, well, don't worry about it, Mr. President. They can protest all they want, just as long as they pay their taxes. Maybe we should stop paying our taxes. Oh, I'm sorry. They got that rigged up, too. Yeah, we're getting very, very close to the point where I don't know how much more we have to see. I mean, but I'm like way up in this range here. I've never ever thought I would go to a march on Washington. But man, oh man, if I thought something would actually come of it, like, you know, I would do it. I would do it. I'm ready. I can't take any more. We'll see what Barr and Durham come up with. They better come up with something. That's all I got to say. If we see this kind of shit taking place, and I don't know what, I haven't heard Barr comment on this finding of the autopsy. I haven't heard what his opinion on that is yet. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he would say, well, if that's the finding of the coroner, then I guess that's the finding. Okay, good. Good. But, you know, the fact that but if he says, yeah, well, you know, that's fine. The coroner says that. That's fine. But I do have the Inspector General and the FBI working on it, and they're going to investigate it. Right. Right. No, what you need is to go to some small town, some little town in America, grab the local sheriff, grab the local prosecutor, and a couple of the assistant prosecutors in his office, and give them the shit, and let them figure it out. Anything conducted inside the Southern District of New York, or the District of Criminals, is bound to be fixed, rigged, and bullshit. Always. That's why, exactly why it's done that way. We need to move the seat of government out of D.C. We literally need to move the entire, I'm serious. We need to, like, bulldoze the District of Columbia. Just bulldoze the whole damn thing to a big hole in the ground, make it an ice skating rink or something, and move everything to, like, some small town in Iowa or somewhere. Somewhere. Indiana, Ohio, somewhere. Man, that place is completely... Wow. Well, what do we have here? The Dayton shooter. The Dayton shooter was on antidepressants and other drugs. But lots of people do lots of drugs. They don't go out and gun people down. But people on antidepressants do. He was probably smoking some weed and snorting some coke. Most people I know smoke weed, sit around and eat pizza and listen to Pink Floyd. Most people who snort coke go out and go dancing or whatever they do. Drinking and dancing or something. That's what they did in the 70s back during the disco era. Snort coke all night long and drink. I wasn't a part of that, but I was an observer. But this guy was on antidepressants. Why didn't I need a autopsy or a toxicology for me to report that to you a week ago? I told you a week ago he was on antidepressants. I told you a week ago they would find this guy was on antidepressants. Like most of them are. Or some other type of psychotropic drug. That is the problem. For the past 35 to 40 years, damn near half the kids in the country have been put on Ritalin or some other sort of antidepressant. And now they're acting like crazy people. Guns have always been here. So have crazy people. But antidepressants are relatively new on the scene. That's what we need to be looking at. And finally, what a way to end the day. The New York Times admits that they completely rebuilt their newsroom to focus totally on Trump-Russia. They rebuilt their newsroom to focus totally on Trump-Russia. But now they've had to flip, and now, since the Mueller report came out, they've had to refocus all their efforts on Trump's racism. There you go, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see what else happens. Unbelievable. Bye.